Okay, so honestly, this Simone Biles stuff is just pissing me off even more now because people are not getting real with themselves about what this is. Okay? Jonathan Owens went in that interview and totally belittled her. He totally acted like she was chopped liver and just some Thanksgiving dinner that he ate because he felt bad, but he didn't really want it like that. You know, like when you go to a Thanksgiving dinner and there's always that one dish that nobody really wants to eat, but they eat it anyways just because they feel bad that somebody took all day to cook it and they don't want to be rude. It's as if he dated her out of pity. And I know y'all are not going to like this, but it is clear that Simone Biles is not Jonathan's typical type. It's as simple as that. The fact that she had to chase him so much just for him to go on a date. I mean, he didn't even want to drive to her. She had to go drive to him. He didn't even want to DM her. She had to DM him and like his pictures. The fact that she had to do all that shows you that she is not his typical type. And I'm not, trying to say, like dark-skinned women are undesirable and nobody likes us. That's not what I'm saying. But in this situation, in this specific situation, he was not really that into her. And Simone is not his typical type. I'm sure if we look at all his past relationships, we will see that he barely dated dark-skinned girls or dated women that look like Simone Biles. And a lot of people don't want to get real about this stuff, but a lot of black men do date dark-skinned women knowing that that's not their typical type. Because if they check off other things on their list, they'll settle for a dark-skinned woman knowing that that's not their typical type. And when I say settle, I don't mean, dark-skinned women are so bad to the point where people need to settle for us. But in their eyes, they see it as they're settling for us in the looks department because we're not their typical type. You saw how he was talking in that interview. Oh, I was hesitant. I really wasn't. She pulled me. A man who was really attracted to her, and if she was really his type, he wouldn't have been speaking like that. I promise you. I promise you. He wouldn't have been speaking about her like that. He would have been like, nah, that's my queen. I think she's one of the most beautiful women in the world. He wouldn't have made it seem like she had to go out of her way to pull him. And not only that, but we got to call a spade a spade. Simone Biles don't love herself. Let's be real. Let's be real. Come on. She do not love herself. Okay, just a few years ago, she was talking about how she wanted Zendaya to play her in a biopic. She wanted a racially ambiguous woman to play her in a biopic. And you all want to tell me this is a woman that loves herself? This is a woman that married a man who is totally beneath her. And she married him based on the fact that she had to pursue him first and go out of her way. Like, come on. No woman that loves herself is going out of their way to pursue a man like that. That gives desperate. And she was desperate. If she loved herself, she would wait for a man to approach her. She would wait for a man to make moves on her first. The fact that she felt like she had to go on a dating app to find love when she is a woman of high caliber. I mean, this is Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast of all time. And even with all her accolades and her achievements, she felt like she needed to go on a dating app to find love. And she felt like she needed to overly pursue a man just to find love. And y'all want to tell me that's a woman that loves herself? The same woman who wanted a racially ambiguous girl to play her in a biopic? The same woman that is now reducing herself and dimming her light to make her husband feel comfortable? Because now she's talking about, oh, call me Jonathan Owen's wife. Honey, we don't know who Jonathan Owens is. We still don't know who he is. We're still referring to him as Mr. Biles. But you want to reduce yourself and dim your light to stroke your man's ego. That is not a woman that loves herself. And I don't think she sees it, and a lot of dark-skinned women don't when they're in these relationships. But she doesn't see that she was not his typical type, period. She doesn't see that. And I don't think she's ever even known what that's like or even felt that, because if she did, she would see what was wrong with that interview. We don't see Russell Wilson talk about Sierra like that. We don't. We don't see Steve Harvey talk about his wife like that. We don't. When you see a man who truly is with a woman that he genuinely wanted and he was genuinely attracted to, you will see what was wrong with that interview. And the fact that she doesn't see what was wrong just shows me she don't love herself, and I don't think she's ever been properly loved or properly courted or properly pursued by a man. And listen, I feel bad for her. I do. Because I've been in this situation before. I've dated a man before who later on in the relationship, he told me that dark skins weren't his typical type. But he decided to date me because I had a great personality and I was educated and I had things going for myself. But his first pick is normally light-skinned girls. It's not women that look like me. And as much as people want to act like, oh, you know, like people can marry people who are not their type and fall in love with their personality, that's fine. But what y'all need to understand is it always shows. It always shows. It always shows. Just by how they look at you, how they talk about you, it always shows. Even how they treat you. It always shows. Because they're always going to treat you like you're second place. They're always going to treat you like you're the girl they settled for in the looks department because you had other great qualities. But they genuinely wanted something else. And let a man actually have access to his typical type. Oh, honey, he gonna cheat. He gonna make you feel like you're not enough because you're not his typical type. And so on and so forth. So, we gotta call a spade a spade. She's not his typical type. He probably doesn't really date women that look like her. And in his eyes, he feels like he settled for her in the looks department because she had other great qualities. And it's showing. It's literally showing. I don't know if anybody has ever experienced that, but I know I have. Like, when I was in a relationship with a black man, like 6 months in, he told me, yeah, dark skins are not really my type, but you know, you had other great qualities. So I was like, all right. But he did the same thing that Jonathan was doing. He would always try to undermine my accomplishments and act like he didn't see them, or act like, you know, he was the big man next to me, even though I had more going for myself than him. And he wouldn't talk about me like I was his queen and I was a blessing to him. He would talk about me like, oh yeah, she pulled me. I'm the big man over here. Because these men, especially black men, when they date a dark-skinned woman who's not their typical type, they know that that dark-skinned girl is dating them because they're their typical type. They look at dark-skinned women like we don't have any options. So any man that we're dating, we should feel lucky to have because we don't really pull men to begin with in their eyes. So they're going to look at themselves like the prize because in their eyes, they feel like they settled in the looks department and they feel like we hit the jackpot in the looks department. And that's what Jonathan, like, come on. Jonathan feels like Simone hit the jackpot. And he feels like he settled in the looks department because she is definitely not his typical type. But because she had other great qualities, he went for it. Trust me. If it was his typical type, he would have liked her pictures. He would have DM'd her. He would have drove to her house. The fact that she had to do all of that just shows you already. Like, she was not his typical type at all. But he saw the status. He saw that she had a lot of followers. And he said, you know what? I'll give it a try. But I'm just going to call it right now. And y'all might say, you know, I'm wrong or whatever, but I'm going to call it right now because I've seen this so many times. He's most likely going to either cheat on her or leave her for somebody that's his typical type when he finally gets access to it. Because you see, some men, so I'm calling it right now. I wish that marriage success, but if in a few years she comes back and says, oh, you know, he cheated on me, and the girl he cheated with is a woman that looks nothing like Simone, yeah, I'm going to have to say I told you so. I'm going to have to say I told you so. Because when men date a woman that's not their typical type, in their eyes, there's still always going to be something missing. And he will look outside at some point to get his typical type. Trust me, like I've literally been in this situation before. I've had men date me because I benefited from featureism. I've had men date me because they felt like I had other great qualities, but, you know, dark-skinned girls was never their typical type. And throughout the relationship, they ended up cheating on me with their real type. And then they started making me feel like I wasn't enough next to these lighter skinned women because they truly don't value dark skinned girls. And their typical type is of the lighter complexion. And it's really heartbreaking because I feel like a woman of Simone's caliber deserves so much more. And she's a beautiful woman. And she is definitely a catch. And I just wish she loved herself and loved her skin, because she clearly doesn't. Okay? No dark-skinned woman asking Zendaya to play her in a biopic loves her skin, period. And I just wish she did love her skin and loved herself, because if she did, she would have attracted a man who genuinely liked her. And a man who genuinely found dark-skinned girls as their type. And that interview would have went way different if she was with a man who actually seen her as his type. And it's so heartbreaking to see that dark-skinned girls, even when they're successful and have a high status, they still settle. Because they have a mentality that they're not good enough. And they're not good enough to be courted or pursued or with a man who is more successful than them. That's sad. Another thing that was pissing me off too was people are saying, oh, black women are so bitter. Black women are not the only ones calling this shit out. That's the funny part. Y'all are so fixated on calling black women bitter that you're not even calling out other races who are calling this shit out. If you go on TikTok right now, there are a bunch of white women who are literally doing challenges where they're asking their significant others, or they're asking people, do you know who Simone Biles is? And people will be like, yes. And then they'll respond, okay, do you know who her husband is? And then everybody draws a blank. And it's literally a trending challenge on TikTok right now. And it's not black women who are doing it. It's white women and white men that are doing it. So it's not just black women that are calling it out. White women and white men are also clowning Jonathan Owens and also calling this shit out for what it is. But y'all are so fixated on calling black women bitter because you're used to us speaking up. And you want to put the blame on us. But you don't have any smoke for other races. That's funny to me. That's funny. It's really funny how black women are getting the blame right now. When everybody's calling it out. Everybody's talking about it. It's not just us. So even Simone was liking comments on Instagram where people were saying, oh, they're just bitter because they can't get a ring. Simone, I promise you, I promise you, the people who are criticizing this would rather stay single than be with a man who is not typically attracted to them, or be with a man who doesn't really want them like that. You are so desperate for marriage and so desperate to have a man to the point where you became the man in the relationship and he was your bitch. I mean, you drove to him, you DM'd him, you liked his pictures. He's calling himself the prize. He's calling himself the catch. He's the bad bitch in the relationship. And I promise you, the people who are criticizing this, we don't want that. We're not jealous of that, and we don't want that. I'd rather stay single than be dating a bad bitch. Come on now. So please, Simone. But like I said, in a few years, we're going to come back to this and we're going to be proven right. Because I've seen this so many times before. I've lived it. Literally. She dated a man who does not really find her that attractive. Simple as that. She dated a man whose typical type is not dark-skinned girls. And it was showing. It was showing. And she does not love herself. She's never been properly loved. Because if she doesn't even see what's wrong with how their relationship started, the fact that she had to put in all this extra work, the fact that she doesn't see what's wrong with how he was talking about her in that interview, the fact that she wants a light-skinned woman to play her in a biopic, she don't love herself. She don't. She don't. So, but I just had to get that off my chest because that was pissing me off. Like, everybody was like, it's still going on. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh. Like, can we all just be real here? It's clear this man don't really like dark-skinned girls or women that look like Simone Biles. But he decided to date her because she was pursuing so hard and she has other great qualities. And this happens a lot to dark-skinned girls. It does. It does. Not all the time, but sometimes it does happen. And the aftermath is literally Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles' relationship. The dark-skinned woman feeling like she has to reduce herself. The dark-skinned woman feeling like she's not enough already for who she is, to the point where she has to go out of her way to put in extra effort just to bag a man. And she's sticking beside him. She's sticking beside him, even though he was embarrassing her. So, that's not a woman that loves herself. At all. For all my dark-skinned girls out there, I hope you take this as a lesson to know that there are men who will date you, even though you're not their typical type. Especially if you benefit from featureism. But if you have other great qualities, sometimes these men will date you, even if you're not their typical type. And the way to know that is how he pursues you for real. If you have to put in all the effort and you have to pursue him and like his pictures and DM him and drive to his house, he don't really like you like that. He don't. You're not his typical type. I want dark-skinned women to have that standard of knowing that you deserve the world and you deserve a man that's going to court you and pursue you. You don't have to do the chasing ever. Okay? You are the blueprint. And there are men out here who do love you and love your skin and will chase you and pursue you. Okay? Don't look at Simone Biles and think that that's all there is for dark-skinned girls. No. That's just her because she don't love herself and she was desperate for a man. But that doesn't have to be you. Okay? Even myself. My man, I rejected him the first time that me and him met each other. And he was chasing me for months, actually. He chased me for 6 months. And he drove to see me on our first date. And he drove an hour and 20 minutes. And to this day, we've been together for about 7 months now. And I have never, ever had to drive to him. Ever. Ever. I've never had to pay for anything on a date. And I've never had to drive to him. He lives a whole hour and 20 minutes away from me. And he drives to me every single time we see each other. So, if you don't have a good example of how you're supposed to be courted and pursued, use me as an example. Okay? Don't look at Simone Biles and think that's all there is for you as a dark-skinned girl. Look at me. Okay? This is a girl who rejected her man and had a man chase her for about 6 months. And to this day, I have never seen a bill, and he drives an hour and 20 minutes to see me. Every time we see each other. And we see each other about twice a week. And this is a man who works 6 days a week. And he still finds time to see me. So just to show you, there's more out there. And when a man is really into you, he will put in that effort. He will make time for you. He will drive to you. He will chase you and he will pursue you. And there are men out there like that for dark-skinned women. A lot of men out there like that. So don't think that you have to be so desperate for love to the point where you have to chase a man and do what Simone Biles did. I don't want that for you guys. And I don't want you guys to look at this situation and think that all of you have to move the way Simone Biles did. I want y'all to take this as a lesson to understand that you deserve way better than what Simone Biles is getting. And just because she has a ring on that finger, that doesn't mean that she's getting the best treatment out here. And you deserve way better than that. So, yeah, that's all for this video, though. I just had to get that off my chest because, oh, child. But if you're new here, welcome. My name is Shakira, aka Barbie 2.0. And I talk about colorism, texturism, and featureism, and any trending topics in the Black community on my page. And yeah, if you're dark skinned, just know that you are loved and you deserve the world. You are the blueprint. You are a queen. And you deserve to be treated like one. You deserve a man who's going to talk about you like you are the most beautiful woman in the world. You deserve a man who is going to chase you and pursue you and court you and give you princess treatment. You don't deserve to be sloppy seconds at all. Okay? So, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys very soon. Besos.